Hello, a very good afternoon, a warm welcome to this session on understanding nutrition for new puppies and kittens. My name is Ravi, Ravikant Upadrasta, my full name. I'm the marketing manager for the veterinary division with Royal Canin India. Royal Canin started in 1958 by a veterinary doctor in France. He started with the belief, and many Indians would, resonate with what he said. He started with the company with the philosophy that let food be your first medicine. Uh,
Mm.
and in that process, nutrition became extremely important. Uh, Royal Canin through the years kept cat and dog at the center of all its research. Uh, there were many products through its lifetime which were first in the industry. Uh, the philosophy has always guided us towards making a better world for pets. I am a pet parent, and this resonates with me in a very deep way because I have a 6-year-old golden retriever, and whenever I come home, Zena, which is my pet, welcomes me as if, the whole day it has been waiting for me to come. It is so excited. It is so happy to see me. And that feeling is something that is very difficult to describe, but I know that every pet parent can relate to what I'm saying. Like they make our life happy. Royal Canin believes in making their life happy by giving them the right set of nutrition. This is a series of sessions through the year where we focus on nutrition, and this session primarily focuses on bringing in responsible pet parenting. Uh, it's summer, it's hot, it's sizzling, it's sultry in many places of the country, and it is also a vacation time. Many of the students will have their summer vacation now, and this is also the time when we see a lot of parents bringing in or inviting new pets into their lives. It's a big responsibility. uh, it's there are a lot of unknowns when we do that, and this is our little effort to help you, uh, understand a few things that you'll discover in your journey of pet ownership. And therefore, we thought of having this series. We have been doing it for many years, and this is one such effort from our side. Uh, I have Dr. Krishanu Ghosh with me today, who will be primarily anchoring the session. Uh, to talk about Dr. Kishanu, uh, he's been in veterinary practice for over 11 years now. He's the founder and chief veterinarian at Vet Ashore Pet Clinic in the city of Joy, Kolkata. Vet Ashore has two clinics today, and they work with an aim to work for the betterment of animal health. Their goal is to treat pets, but at the same time educate pet parents to ensure that they have a healthier and longer life. He manages a team of 14 dedicated employees who are, all the employees at the clinic who come together to make sure that VetAssure delivers towards its aim for the betterment of animal health. Uh, he started practicing in 2013, and he started his current clinic in 2020. And he is also a member of many veterinary associations. Without further ado, I would hand it over to Dr. Ghosh. Dr. Ghosh, over to you. I invite you on the stage, hand it over the mic to you, uh, and let's hear it from him.
Hi, Ravi. First of all, I'm very overwhelmed for this introduction you have made. Hi, this is Dr. Krishanu Ghosh. I'm the founder of Veterinary Pet Clinic. That is, as I mentioned, from the city of Joy, Kolkata, as you could see. And I'm a practicing veterinarian, and I've graduated on the year of 2013. For the last 11 years, I've been practicing on the small animals, focusing on dogs and cats. And I'm very fond to Royal Canin for giving such platform where we can discuss and educate and get in touch with different pet parents who are about to be pet parents. So there's such a good platform where you can all, share the common knowledge and the day-to-day issues they face with their pets, especially for the puppies and kittens. Over to you, Ravi.
Good, Chief.
Uh,
Um, to start with, I think what are the first watchouts when pet parents bring in a new puppy or a kitten at home?
See, first you have to watch out the overall health condition of a dog. Initially, unless you have or had a pet before, it's very difficult for the first-time pet parents to understand many of the factors to make sure whether the puppy is healthy or not. Because by the time there is the vet, it's at least a day or 2 days or at least some hours. So by the time they're getting the pet, adopting the pet, I'll choose the word adopting is the right word. They to make sure the puppy is completely healthy, fit, and fine. The activities are completely stable. The puppy quietly interacts with the humans. And if they have other dogs in the house, they have to be a little cautious in the beginning to make them interact with the other dogs because, there are a lot of insecurities may develop in between the dogs. And just by the time they come, they have to wait for a few hours and ask it from the person where they have taken the dog that what the dog has been fed before. So just by the time they're getting the dog, immediately, they should not change the pattern of diet. They should at least know whatever has been fed before. So gradually they can take the patterns and they have to make sure whether the dog is urinating and pooping at the right place, though it takes a little time to get accustomed to these things. So these are the basic things people should look out for when they're taking a dog.
Thanks, Dr. Ghosh. Um, when the puppy or the kitten
Hmm.
are brought home, they are at a tender age. Typically, as in from a Royal Canin perspective, we always advise pet parents to get a puppy if there are 50 plus days in case of a dog.
Exactly. Exactly.
Uh, so uh, the first initial time we see a spurt in the growth of the puppy.
Exactly.
Uh, why is nutrition important during this stage?
See, a puppy is basically, if you categorize these parts, a puppy is basically weaned. Weaning means is the time till the time frame a puppy is supposed to have its mother's milk. That is basically 5 to 6 or max to max 7 weeks of age. So pet parents have to be very cautious while taking the puppy. They have just crossed out the weaning phase of their life, and they're supposed to have switched to a new form of diet gradually. So the age is a very important part. No one should take the puppies before the weaning phase, which is at least 35 days of their age. And the nutrition is very important because they have already left their mother's milk by the age of 35 to max 40 days. So once they're gradually shifting on their outside resources of the dietary needs, it has to be very crucial. And puppies compared to the adults or the medium-aged dog are way more prone than to get digestive issues or like regular indigestion or loss of appetite and this kind of things. So they have to be very careful at the beginning of the time.
Right. Uh, Many pet parents ask, why is there a need for a balanced nutrition?
Hmm.
Uh, what is the importance to give, you know, typically they get to, they are advised to feed
Hmm.
packed food or commercial food or industry food.
Hmm.
And the question often pops out in their head on the difference between a commercial food
Hmm.
and home cooked food.
Okay, on that contrary, I think it's always better that we need to understand the different growth phases of a dog as well as the different components of the nutrition. Uh, a dog basically, in general, their approach their adulthood by the age of 12 to 18 months of age, depending on the variability of their breeds, whether it's a small breed, medium breed, or large breed. So unlike humans, they're not growing till 15 to 18 years of age to get their, like mental and physical state of their adulthood. It's very shorter frame for them. As it is shorter, the things are very faster for their side. So by the age of 1 year to 1.5 years, they get approaching their complete adulthood. It signifies how important is the nutrition for the puppy or a kitten as they're growing that fast. So especially on the since they're weaned for their mother and they're being to the pet parents and the mother's milk or the basic immunity has already gone, and this is basically the time where they start getting the vaccination and other things. So apart from that, if nutrition is not being considered very gracefully at that time, many of the things going to happen. And especially in the different growth phase, till the 6 months of age or 7 months of age from the weaning time, or at the larger breed that extended up to nine months of age, the 90% of their body weight or the structure they already achieve by this age frame. So nutrition, like it implements a very big role in this time phase basically. So for example, like the basic nutrients are like protein, carbohydrate, fat. These are the basic nutrients, as you all know. Apart from the protein, carbohydrate, and fat, there are some other nutrients like vitamins. Okay. Vitamins are very essential also. It should not be excess, neither should be less. There are minerals. It also plays a very important role. If it's not given in the right amount, it can cause a deficiency diseases. Even if it's been given in excess amount, that can cause other issues also, indigestive issues and other diseases as well. So the nutrient plays a most important role. If it's not given in proper amount, you might end up giving a lot of issues in the puppy. That's why in this, especially the primary age, the food they require to give, if you're giving a commercial based diet, everything is proportionate. Whatever a puppy require, for example, if I give some analytics also, a puppy require at least 22% to 32% of protein at their initial age, whereas in maintenance age, it's 18 to 22%. If you can comprise that with the home-based diet, that is still fine. But there are many other factors which, to make it very proportionate by the home-based diet, it's difficult at times, especially for the puppies.
Right. At the same time, many pet parents also ask uh, that the contents
Hmm.
behind the bag look
Hmm.
similar,
Hmm.
but why do I get advised that so and so brand is better than others?
Hmm.
Uh, uh, is there anything that that is different? As in, let's say
Hmm.
a bag may say two different bags may say 20% protein or 25%
Hmm.
protein.
Hmm. Hmm.
Do you think it is still different when it comes to actual absorption?
I think that it's a very valid thing you have put on. Like, this is one of the things where a pet parent is choosing their pet food for their dogs. The labeling is very important. What they're reading on the labels, the nutrients are basically mentioned in these labels. The basic nutrients are already there. Like, what is the amount of protein, what is the percentage of carb, and what is the percentage of fat, as well as the moisture, as well as this trace elements. Everything has been mentioned, though it can differ. For example, like someone is offering 20% of protein, other food is offering 22% of protein. That might still vary. If the 20% of protein has more bioavailability than the 22% of the protein food packet, that is even better, because if you're consuming that and it is not being utilized and not being absorbed as much as it is required, then it doesn't make much of a sense. It mostly becomes a waste matter.
So when you mention bioavailability for the benefit of our pet parents, can you elaborate on this term?
Hmm.
And what determines availability?
So bioavailability is basically the absorption of the nutrient. I mean, if you're having a good amount of protein with less bioavailability, it's mostly being, going on the side of the wastage. Bioavailability is basically the absorption of the nutrient, what is getting into the body and body is utilizing in other forms. Suppose protein we consume for the purpose of our agility or the structure or the muscle formation and tissue formation, and this parts we require the protein. Carbohydrate is basically providing us the sources of the energy, and fat is basically for providing us the energy, as well as this fats are giving other essential fatty acids which are very essential for the skin and coats. So if the food doesn't have very good quantity of bioavailability, the all of the nutrients that is written over there, it's out of use if the absorption is not proper.
Great. So yeah, I think this is a very important point that we touched upon on the
Hmm.
source of the protein or the source of the carbohydrate
Hmm.
depends on the bioavailability of that particular nutrient. Very, very
Exactly.
important point. Uh, so what are the factors that one should consider while selecting food for puppies or kittens?
The factors they have to consider is basically the life stages of the dog, because as per the life stages, as the age progresses, the requirement of the nutrients becomes different as per the age. Uh, it's very simple. Every pet parent would understand that puppies at the age of their, at the beginning ages, they require more nutrition than an adult dog or even a senior dog. Mostly at the adult age, they require the moderate nutrition. And once they're approaching the senior age, their metabolism becomes slow and their nutrient requirement becomes quite less compared to the age. For example, if you're going for the protein itself, the protein in the puppy stage is usually required 28 to 30%, or even 32%. In the medium age, it's within the range of 24 to 28%. If it's an adult dog, that should be within the range of 18 to 22%, not exceeding that. So as for the age progresses, the requirement also differs. So the life stage is very important for choosing your pet food. Okay. And every possible brand has different stages of their food as per the life stages. Like, for example, the starter food is basically for the puppies till the age of 2.5 months to 3 months of age. Then they're in the adolescent stage or the junior stage, you could say, in cats and dogs. In that time, they're supposed to have the junior food or this adolescent food or the puppy food. And after they reach their adulthood, they are supposed to have it till the age of 6 to 7 years of age. And within 7 to 8 or maximum 9 years, they approach their senior age. Then the foods has to be, chosen upon depending on that. That is basically on the life stages. And lifestyle is also very important. Apart from the life stages, every dog can have their different, way of lifestyle. The agility or activities can differ. We cannot always like comprehend on the base of their life stages. Like lifestyle is also very important. If a dog has like 3 times walk a day, and if a dog like leaves the house like once in a month, their agility is different, the requirement of the food and the nutrition is different. Or like depending on the activity, or some breed specific things are there as well, like those dogs who are more into the muscle mass, like hounds or like rottweilers, they have the more muscle mass, so the requirement of the nutrition is. And for cats, for example, maine coons or ragdolls and this kind of breed, they need at least 10 to 15% of the more nutrition than the other dogs. Lastly is if there is any special dietary needs, if they have, apart from the regular food diet, if a dog is having weight issues, they're gaining more weight than they required, then they have to get the vet's guide or assistance in terms of choosing the proper food, because there are some special category of foods available which is focusing on the specific clinical conditions. And lastly, the quality has to be checked, the quality and this reputation of the food, which I think it matters a lot. There are, at present day in standing in 2024, there are a lot of foods and a lot of options we get in every possible way, like in commercial market or even in the retails, there are a lot of options we get. And the reputation really does matter, the reputation of the food.
Right. Thanks, doctor, on that. Uh, Many pet parents also say that they find their kitten or puppy a little fussy.
Hmm.
They are choosy. What are
Hmm.
the factors that impact the palatability of
Hmm.
food?
See, I think on that contrary, before going for the palatability context, if your cat or a dog being fussy and choosy, you have to first be very selective on few factors, especially small breeds. Like, I'm also a pet parent. I have a Lhasa Apso who is 4 years old. I have a cat who is like 3 years old. So cats and small breed dogs, this is a very big concern in terms of their part, that they're always very fussy compared to the adult dog. I mean, compared to the larger dogs. The larger dogs are mostly a little voracious compared to the smaller breed dogs. There are some factors you have to consider. What could be the possible reason for them to be the fussy eaters? Then you can choose on the palatability of the food section. I think one of the major part is that there is a thing called self-regulation. If a cat or a dog they have their natural instinct or behavioral part, which is called self-regulation. The nutrient they consume or require in their body, if they're somehow being self-regulated, like if the what amount of food I'm giving, if they, you know, it can cater or it can fulfill the requirement, I think they stop eating from that point. And if it's not matching the dietary requirement, they seek foods here and there in different places. So this self-regulation is a very big part where most of the pet parents do not understand. This is one of the parts also which you have to consider. Then second thing is very important, that you have to consider the health issues also. If there is any health issues concerning, a dog is being fussy or not eating the food 1 day or 2 day or just few days is fine. If it's continuing, I think you need to seek a vet's assistance on that to find out if there is any health issues concerning that part, even in the puppies, not only for the adult dogs all the time. Okay. And lastly, I think there is a thing, stress or anxiety. It's a mental health. We have, I think, in globally also there is an issue. Nobody considers the mental health of a dog or a cat in that that context. Like mental health is also a very important part. A dog or a cat also can undergo the stress. Suppose I give an example: if they're moving to a new house where they're not very accustomed to it, a new place, a new people, if they're getting to see, it gives a lot of stress and anxiety to the pets. This is one of the reasons which can lead them to is let food and become fussy. As I mentioned about that, it's all about the breed is the main thing. The larger breeds are supposed to eat a little more than the smaller breeds in general, on the fussiness part. And lastly, like the palatability, as I've been mentioning, the palatability is also a very big concern, because apart from the digestibility, the second most important concern I think for pets is palatability, unless you end up feeding the dog or a cat in a hand fed way. So the palatability is not good at the end of the day. It's very difficult to maintain to commercial based diet for your pet, irrespective of the brands. So palatability is the main concern, and I think on that part, if your dog is completely reluctant to have food, irrespective of brands, there are some additional things you can do, like adding some broth or adding some good yogurt or things. You can try out different things.
Right, right. In your practice, what are the usual nutritional deficiencies that you observe in kitten or puppy stages?
Okay, so the nutritional deficiency part, if you're going for that, that basically start with the major nutrients. Like major nutrients are protein, carbohydrate, and fat. So if you majority of the puppies being adopted from a shelter, or the rescued pups you get to see, it's very unfortunate. Most of the rescued pups you get to see, there are so much of nutritional deficiencies because of lack of the food, proper food, you could say. Mostly, if you get to see in the there is deficiency in the protein, they lose the muscle mass, they'll not grow properly. You can simply check it from the growth of the dog. And if there is deficiencies on this fat also, if there is deficiency of the fat is basically generating these fatty acids. You'll get to see there is coat, and their coat is very dull and dry in most of the cases. And apart from the basic nutrients, you get to see a lot of deficiencies in the vitamin part as well. Like for example, if a dog is having vitamin A deficiency, they'll end up having some eye issues, poor visibility, or difficulties in their movements and eyes. These are the things. If there is vitamin C deficiency, you'll get to see a lot of skin infection regarding cases, as well as the vitamin E. If a dog is having vitamin B12 or like cobalamin deficiency, most of the cases you get to see they are having GI issues, like chronic gastro issues that develop. Vitamin D is very common deficiency we get mostly in the younger dogs. If a dog is deficit in the vitamin D, mostly you get to see a lot of joint issues, like they develop arthritis very easily. They have bent legs, duck legs, or this kind of patterns. Their agility is not very proper. So these are the usual deficiencies we guess. Apart from the deficiencies, there are a lot of excesses we get also. If you end up giving so much of protein to a dog, after a certain age, you'll end up getting this kidney issues at the end of the day. This is not only the deficiencies, has to be very balanced. If you end up giving more and more food or more nutrients on the same part, you'll get the excess diseases as well. If you're giving too much of fat, they're getting like too much of digestive issues. They end up having diarrhea and other things. If you're giving too much of carbohydrate, I don't think anything need to be say over that, because Indian dogs at the end of the day, They're mostly, this is one of the challenges. They're being fed too much of carbohydrate, and that's what end up they're being obese and, too healthy at that category.
I think that's a very good point that you mentioned on excesses,
Hmm.
deficiencies being one, but we should also be watching out for excesses.
Exactly.
And the point that you mentioned on obesity,
Hmm.
do you also find obesity in kitten and puppy stages? And yes, what should it be an immediate remedial factor and why?
Hmm. Okay, yes, you're on a very good topic, the obesity part. Even in puppies and kitten stages, comparatively, we get lesser cases of obesity in the puppy and kitten stages. One of the main factor or the reason being the metabolism is higher on the puppies and kitten stage.
Right,
As the metabolism is higher, usually they don't catch to become obese at this time unless they are being too overfed. If a
right,
cat or a dog at the end of the day being too overfed, you know, they end up getting the obesity. As you all know, if a dog or a cat getting obesity at the primary age, it's even bad, I feel, than the later age. At the initial age only, once they're starting their life, they might end up getting the joint issues like arthritis. Hip dysplasia is a very common thing. If a dog, especially a larger breed dog, if they start developing the obesity issues at the beginning of their life, where their 10, 12, 13 years of life is ahead of that, if they start getting the hip dysplasia and this kind of issues, at least at the age of 7 or 8 years, that can be managed. If it's at the age of 1 year or few months, it's very difficult for the rest of the life of the puppy. They also lose their like self-confidence as well in that part.
right,
And in cats also, I think cats in that way, cats have a little different personalities from the dogs. As I'm also a cat parent, I mostly seen cats are usually very, they have better understanding over the nutrients, and they somehow end up eating the amount they want. I've seen very less number of obese cats in the kitten stages. There is a part which I haven't touched yet, is basically the neutering and spaying part. If a cat is being neutered or spayed at a very earlier age, of course, they have tendencies to become obese because the metabolism also decreases quite a lot. So that's why the deposition of the fat becomes quite more in the body, and they end up become obese at very early age if that is not being maintained. It's completely on the pet parent side. Even their cat or a dog, especially cats, is being neutered at the earlier age, the pet parent have to give the nutrition on that basis only. At least 10 to 15% of the food they have to cut down from there itself. If you're not doing that, they'll end up getting the obesity issues in the puppies and kittens.
right. We also have a few questions from the chat, and I'll encourage
Hmm.
our audience who have joined online. Please drop in your questions. I'll
Hmm.
take this one, which says, "Hello, doctor. I've just got my dog vaccinated 2 days back,
Hmm.
and he seems to have lost his appetite. Is it
Hmm.
normal?" And I think it is part of the same from the same pet parent where he says it's a lab and about 60 days.
Hmm.
The question I think has been posed by Anindya Chaudhary.
Okay. So, okay, this is one of the part which actually reminded me one of the thing I've missed in the puppy nutrition part. That is after the vaccination, the puppy has lost his appetite for 1 or 2 days, which might last for another 1 or 2 days. Why this is happening? Most of the cases that usually happens because of immune response. Why immunity is so important in puppies and kittens, and food plays a very important role in this part. Because once you're inoculating a vaccine in a dog, you're basically giving the antigen which can produce the antibody and can give the defense mechanism for a dog to protect against a particular disease, for example, parvo, distemper, or the other diseases. So once there are immunological changes in the body, a dog's immune system has to be very protective about that. So how come they develop their immune system? They can develop their immune system mostly on their food. Immune system can be developed in the puppies mostly on the base of the antioxidants they are getting from the food. If a food is not comprised of good amount of antioxidant, they might lack in this their immune part as well. So this is one of the common things. But yeah, if the thing more than 2 days or 3 days, if this thing continues, if the dog is not very willing to have food, or you see the other changes in the body, if the dog is being lethargic or less agile or less active, I think you need a vet's attention after that.
Great. Um, we are also in the midst of the infamous Indian summer. from a care perspective for puppies and kittens, especially, but generally for all
Hmm.
pets? What
Hmm.
are the watch outs?
See, we live in a country where mostly, 7 to 8 months of the year is being considered as summer itself. The temperature is always on the higher side with more moisture. I think it's almost similar in Delhi, Mumbai, and Bangalore, in all the metro cities. So, in general, in summer times, the you know their maintenance of the body temperature or the regulation, it requires less. So, they usually, in general, need less amount of food compared to the winter. To maintain or regulate their body temperature in the winter, they need more amount of food and to maintain their metabolism as well. In summer, they need many pet parents also, this misconceptualize this thing as their dogs are eating very less in the summer times. So they get worried about that fact. So if your dog's food habit or appetite is dropping 10 to 15% in the summertime, in the peak summertime especially, I don't think that is a very big way of concern for that. Okay. And one thing, one very big nutrient we have missed out throughout the session, that is we have been focusing on protein, carb, fat, and everything, but we missed out on the context of the water. Water is the most essential nutrient to make every other nutrient work in a proper way, as well as maintain or regulate the temperature in our body and make sure that every nutrient is being absorbed properly and it gets channelized properly. So water intake is very important. In the summertime, you have to look after the urination of the dog, the stool of the dog, whether it's too dry or whether urine is too yellow they're doing, or either they are panting or salivating or not. These are the few things you have to watch out, especially in the summertime. And mostly in summer times, if you're taking your dog too much outdoor, we get a lot of cases like of heat stroke and other health issues also. These are like medical concern. So to be very cautious with that part. If your dog is not very accustomed with this thing, just by listening or hearing from other person, don't randomly take your dog out in the heat. Just get the dog accustomed with the outside temperature. Maybe in the early morning, in the daytime, or in the evening time where the heat is less, then gradually get accustomed with that. And you cannot keep completely your dog indoor as well. They need to be involved in the activities also. So we have to be very cautious with that part. And water, you have to keep in mind that they do drink a good amount of water.
I have another question from a pet parent, Shraddha. Shraddha says, what is the proper weight of a golden puppy, age 14 months?
Mhm.
And she also has a concern that her puppy is not chewing the food properly.
Okay, okay. That is a very very good thing to cover up on. So first, I don't know, I'm not going very like uh, this book written part. This is my way of observation. This is what I think through the years of practice. It is what I've observed. We should never standardize dogs on the basis of their weights, though irrespective of their breeds. Of course, a golden retriever is supposed to be within a weight range of 28 to 32 or even 35 in the male part. But still, we shall never standardize on basis of the number. Like every humans does not have the same height and weight proportionately. So if a dog is 25 kg weighing at the age of 14 months or 18 months, it's fine. If a dog is weighing 45 kg, still it's fine. What should be looked after, whether the dog is overweight or underweight, that their weight is proportionate with the height or not. The height and weight should be proportionate for the dog. I feel for a 14 months old dog means it's around 92 to 95% of the body weight the dog has already achieved of his adult body weight.
It's a 4-month-old puppy,
It's
doctor. Just,
okay, it's a 4 month old puppy. So
yeah.
4 months means it's at the peak of its phase. It's basically at the peak of this phase of his growth. How much the dog is weighing right now?
The weight has not been given in the chat.
Hmm.
I think the pet parent is looking for an ideal weight.
Okay, the
Um,
ideal weight for a 4 month old puppy should come within a range of 12 to 15 kg. Okay, depending on the breed though. If can exceed 15 kgs, but one thing you have to make sure the height and weight is proportionate.
right.
And one basic thing you can monitor, I'll add on this part, that once your puppy is growing, irrespective of seeing the exact, going by the numbers, the exact weight of the dog, what you can monitor is every 2 to 3 weeks, expect a body weight gain for the dog should be in the range of larger dog, it should be within 1.3 to 1.5 times. I give you an example. For a 20 kg dog, if a dog's adult body weight is 20 kg, expect it, and the dog is at the age of 1 month and 1 kg. So that should be 2 to 4 times. That means every day the dog should gain 40 to 80 grams of the body weight, whereas for kittens that should be 50 to 100 grams per week. So for this dog, I think if you're monitoring your dog's body weight at least once a week or at least every 2 weeks, try to make sure the body weight is gaining 1.3 to 1.5 times. That is the ideal range. If it's below 1.3 times, then the dog is not growing as much as it requires, or it's beyond 1.5 times, it's growing beyond the required body weight gain.
Right. I got a supplementary number for our conversation. Shraddha has mentioned that the puppy is 15 kilos. And I think you had mentioned 14, 15 kilos
Absolutely.
is fine. Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
The dog is on the right track. I think the dog is growing very proper, but still she has to, look after the average pace of the growth. Many dogs we have seen, like in the initial 3, 4 months or 5 months, they've been very well taken care of, and the growth picks up, that kicks up like anything. After the 6 to 7 months of age, you still have the time frame where your dog can grow at least till 8 to 9 months of age or till 12 months of age until they reach 90% of the body weight. So we should never, stop the care as proper you have been giving till the age of 4 to 5 months. After that, you should continue that. Usually that happens with the pet parents, these patterns you have seen. I think 15 is absolutely fine.
Awesome. I have another question, and I love this question because this is much debated or discussed among pet parents. It is, which food is better, dry food or wet food? The
Hmm.
question has been posed by Dr. Dipanshi.
Okay. So we should talk about only dry food and wet food or the other foods as well.
I think we'll first start with dry
Well,
and
start
wet,
with the
and
dry
then
and wet food. Okay, what
yeah,
is the basic nutritional differences on the basis of dry and wet food? Dry food always has more calories than the wet food because it's more concentrated. Wet food has more amount of moisture, so the the quantity of calories are always less compared to the dry food. In terms of the digestibility or palatability, I think always wet food has an edge over the dry food. In terms of the palatability, especially, I have a cat. I've seen mostly the pattern. What happens with the wet food, but the overall calorie content in wet food is always lesser than the dry food. Dry food is more concentrated on that. But in terms of nutrition, both are equally competent. And
right,
right.
right. One more question that comes from Ishani, where
Hmm.
she asked, are bones good for dogs to be given as treats?
Okay, depends on what category of bones you're giving. If you're giving the raw hide ones, you have to first check with the dog's digestibility. Every dog, at the end of the day, you have to make sure that fact, irrespective of breed, their age or gender, every dog is different. Okay, we should never standardize or things like in that way. So if a dog has good digestibility, I don't think that is any concern. Okay, dogs love chewing at the end of the day. Instead of giving this many of the commercial sticks, I think there is no harm giving bones to the dog. If they have mostly these bones are, if you're talking about the palatable bones, I don't think so there is any concern if the dog has good digestibility. But if a dog has tendencies like chew less and swallow more, I think it's not a good choice because we get a lot of cases which ended up getting in a lot of accidents where the bone has not been chewed and ended up being swallowed. Okay. So we have to look, every dog is different. So you have to look after whether the dog is like that. And lastly, if you're giving the bone broth as well, that's quite nutritious. Dog love having it. There is no harm giving this kind of things.
Uh, a question usually asked by the pet parents is, I'm giving the food as per the pack that is prescribed
Hmm.
behind the pack, but I see that my dog or kitten is putting on weight.
Hmm.
Uh, why is it so?
Okay. So basically, the package levels or the things mentioned in the packaged foods are always based on the average, right? They give an average of the body weight as well as the stage of their life, and they give the average of that. But what always doesn't match with the average is basically the agility of the dog. Every dog is not always equally agile as per their body weight and the stage of their life. I mean, the age. So if a dog is more agile, I mean more active, their metabolism is always on the higher side, and they require more and more nutrients and foods and calories. So if a dog is less agile, they require, less amount of food. So agility also is a very big factor where pet parents miss out these things. How active is your dog? Irrespective of breeds that, can differ from dogs to dogs. Mostly, for example, beagles and this kind of breeds are supposed to be very active. Okay. But we have seen a lot of beagles who are not as active as the regular beagles. Like Labradors, retriever groups are usually the dogs who after a certain age they try to become less playful, less attentive. So they once the dog's metabolism becomes slow, as their agility becomes slow, the possibilities of obesity becomes even more, especially from the carbohydrates. If the dog minimum require 20% of carbohydrate in their food, it can maximum go up to the 50%. But if you're giving like 30 to 40 or 50% of carbohydrate and 20% is being utilized, then rest 30% will convert it to fat anyway. The dog will be obese at the end of the day. So completely depends on the agility. And once you're seeing the package level that is given as for the body weight and the stage, you also have to consider the agility. You can on I can give a brief idea about this part. You can do a 2 week challenge on this part. The amount of food you're giving, as per the saying the package levels, in 2 weeks, if you're saying the dog is, if it's an adult dog, especially if you're seeing too much of body weight gain in the span of two weeks of time, you can easily cut down the food at least 10-15% or at least 10%. If your dog is getting underweight giving the same amount of food, then it clearly indicates that you have to increase the food a little amount, like that.
Right. Happy to see that we have some international audience as well. This is a question from China.
Hmm.
Dai Yuhi wants to know if it is safe or okay to give treats every day.
Okay, now you should come to the treats part. This is also very intimidating thing for the pets, as I'm a pet parents also, though I advise a lot of things about the treats, but I also end up giving treats to my pets. See, treats, first of all, treats is such a thing which you cannot expect to contribute much of in the nutritional perspective and the nutritional side, the treats. Treats are supposed to be those things which are supposed to give dogs or a cat what as a reward. If they're listening, if they're listening to you, if they're listening to your commands, if they're hearing to you, then as a reward, you should give the treats. On daily dietary intake, I think a treat should not contribute more than 10% of the total calorie intake. Then it will cause difficulties. It should not cause more than 10% of total their calorie intake. Suppose a dog is having maintenance calorie intake every day, 1800 calories. If the treat should not exceed more than 180 calories per day.
Right. A supplementary question from my side, because whenever I go to the market, I pick this up, is do you see allergies in
Hmm.
puppies or kittens?
Yes, we get to see a lot.
And what are the usual allergies that you see? How to diagnose, how to treat?
Hmm.
Uh, what are the early watchouts for the pet parent to first notice that yes, this could be an allergy and I should take it to a vet. What are the first watchouts and what could be the reason for allergies? How should it be treated?
See, every dog has a basic instinct. Even they're not having any skin issues, they tend to groom themselves, lick themselves, or even itch a bit. That is fine. If they're doing it too much or beyond, I think it has to be taken to the vet. That's a concern, and you'll get to see the redness. The texture of the skin is very important. If your dog is getting proper nutrition in terms of the fatty acid or DHA or EPA, the dog will have a very healthy skin. Usually the texture of the skin will be very healthy. But if your dog skin is mostly, it's very dry or flecky, or there is redness in the skin, I think that's a concern. First you have to go to the vet, make sure whether it's not infectious, it's just allergy itself, and then the vet can come to the allergy part to figure out whether it's come for the food or the external sources. So it's
Right,
basically the vet's task to trace out whether it's from the food sources or the external sources.
right. So I have one more question from Jaspreet. Uh, uh, a 15-month-old German Shepherd mixed dog.
Hmm.
He's becoming fussy and doesn't eat kibble since the past few weeks.
Hmm.
He's not neutered,
Hmm.
30 kilos pup. His urine is also quite yellow and smells strong. Should I be
Hmm.
worried? Should I seek help?
Hmm. Okay, at the first stage, if it's a 15 months old dog, the dog is at the, at almost approaching their adulthood. So simply indicates the dog is still in the puberty. Dogs usually start getting their puberty from the age of 6 to 9 months, depending on the breeds, and till they approach their adulthood, that is 12 to 18 months, maybe extended up to like 24 months. So 15 months for a golden retriever clearly indicates that the dog is in his puberty right now. So in the puberty, in general, the dog become a little reluctant to listen to the pet owners. They become a little naughty in the sense. So that is one of the general reason they tend to eat a little less than they previously used to eat some months back. The dog used to eat like quite higher amount, I believe, in 8 or 9 months age. Once he is right now in 15 months, eating less amount. But yeah, seeking the urine right now, if it's darker yellow and if it's smelling, I think there could be the possibilities of UTI, and you should get in touch with the vet. Medical issues should never be unaddressed. It should always be addressed. If you are feeling that there are possibilities of medical issues apart from the regular less food intake, and if you're getting any more signs and symptom apart from the less food intake, like nausea, like vomiting tendency, or the dog stool is not forming fine, then I think it's a high time you should visit the vet and describe the whole thing to the vet.
The next question is from Atashi Mukhopadhyay, and I think she has access to my questionnaire, I guess, because that is exactly the next question that I had in mind was what is the right time to advise neutering? She has a Shih Tzu which is 10 months old.
Hmm.
That's a specific question, but if I have to generalize, what is the right time to consider neutering for a kitten to start with, and then you can also answer for puppy or vice versa.
Hmm.
I leave it up to you.
Okay, so this is not very usually, I would say, very conventional question. This is rather like, this opinion varies from vets to vets and from places to places. I've seen mostly in the pattern in Southeast Asia, like Singapore and other places, they start neutering at the age of 4 or 5 months. Even in some places, some of the vets in US also, they recommend the ideal age should be after, certain age, like 4 to 5 years of age. See, a dog is eligible for the neutering or spaying, as per my perspective, from their puberty itself. For females, once they have passed their at least first cycle, or for males, they're showing their signs of territorial marking instincts, or humping, or like spotting of the urination. Once this thing is starting, if you really want to get your dog neutered or spayed, you can start getting them neutered or spayed. But it's always better in that way. Neutering and spaying, this is one of the contexts we always try to promote on the pet parents. Because see, at the end of the day, a dog is not going to achieve a lifespan of 70, 80 years. They have a shorter lifespan than human beings, which is in general 12, 13 years. So if in that way, 100% of the dogs, they are not supposed to take the generation further, as their lifespan is shorter and they're capable of giving more and more births. At the same time, a dog can never achieve the healthy sexual life like a human being, or neither they are, socialized in that way that they have to get married and other things. So a dog has to be neutered or spayed. This is quite evident thing. But what is the right age on that thing? I think a dog is eligible from the age of 7 to 8 months or 9 months. So one for the cats, and even you can get it done a little later, like the age of 3 or 4 years. There is no harm doing that as well. Okay.
Right. Atashi also had a supplementary question on her female Shih Tzu, which is 10 months old, about its right weight. I think you addressed right weight earlier,
Hmm.
that it should be if the activity is good,
Hmm.
if the weight is not too much, or if the condition
Hmm.
of the skin looks good, then it should be okay. Uh,
And one thing is there, you have to consider the fact this is a very common perspective thing. Every pet parent should know that if my neighbor has a Labrador and I have a Shih Tzu, I can never compare the things to go in the same way. Like the one basic thing is the smaller the breed, the faster the age. The Shih Tzu dog approaching their 10 months of age, it's almost like 15 to 6 months of a Labrador. So you have to consider that if your Shih Tzu is approaching, like, 10 months of his age, it's supposed to reach at least 95% of his body weight by that time, or the structure or growth by that time.
Right. Right. I can see the sun is setting in Kolkata.
Yes,
I could make out that it is slowly coming onto your face now, which is just about to set in the east. I'm on the
exactly.
western part of the country, and here there's still more time. We have 10 more minutes in this chat. Um uh, I'm sure there'll be more questions coming in. In the
Hmm.
meantime, any last points that you want to mention on starting with kitten nutrition? If you could mention a little more on kitten, because I think
Hmm.
this has been more a puppy or a dog heavy conversation. If you can speak or throw some light on kitten nutrition, that will be good.
Okay, I think, yeah, this is one of the things which you have possibly missed, the basic growth phases of the dogs and cat. Then we'll come to the kitten nutrition part. First, you under that understand the nutritional requirement, how it changes with the phases of the body. Like basically, a dog or a cat have four phases of their lifetime. Starts with a puppy phase or kitten phase, then comes this adolescence or this, junior phase, then comes the adult phase and the senior phase. The maximum nutrition is required in their puppy or kitten stage only. That is the time they're growing the most faster way and they require more and more nutrition. So kittens by the age of 6 months of age, they mostly achieve their maximum amount of body weight or the growth. Okay. There are some basic differences where kittens are different than the puppies as they're different species. That is on terms of taurine, cysteine, or methionine. These are the amino acids which is highly essential for the kittens, not as much as required in the dogs. Okay. And arginine is also very important. And if they don't get good amount of arginine, they might get this high blood ammonia. And fatty acids are also very important for the kittens, fatty acids and DHA and the EPA. These are the sources mostly come for the fish oils, which is very essential for the cats. And these are the few parts: taurine, arginine, cysteine, methionine. These are more required in kittens than the puppies.
I think that's a good point. By mentioning these, you are also prompting our viewers to do read the pack well,
Hmm.
see if the particular food
Hmm.
that you have picked up delivers these particular nutrients,
Hmm.
especially when you mentioned taurine and arginine.
Hmm.
They should definitely look at the ingredients to make sure that, yeah, the pack that they have picked up delivers these particular nutritions.
Hmm.
Um, uh, we have 8 minutes to close the chat or the conversation. Uh, either we can, we've pretty much covered everything.
Hmm.
Either we can give the time back to our viewers so that, they can enjoy their, pa- the rest of the evening of Saturday and enjoy the weekend.
Hmm.
Final words from you, and then we can close our conversation for the week or for this session.
First of all, thank you, Royal Canin, for giving such platform and let interact with the pet parents regarding the nutrition and the different stages of their life. How nutrition is very important in present day of things. As time is progressing, pet parents are getting more aware about their pets' nutrition and the requirements, and they're more keen and more concerned to have give them proper diet or proper balanced nutrition. Is very overwhelming to address them, the different pros and cons and the different parts of the nutrition, why it is important, how the balance matters a lot. I lastly I also say, there is no harm, the typical concept of there is no harm giving the home-based diet or anything to the dogs, but the amount of balance in the nutrition that like commercial food can provide, that can exactly not be matched with the home-based diet. That is the basic difference. And many of the cases on a practical basis, we get like a lot of dogs and cats after a certain age, even if you wish to continue for the commercial foods, the dog and cat start refusing their food. So then at anyway, you have to like get back to the home-based diet. There's no harm in that, but you have to make it very proportionate. You have to understand the basic nutrition, that at least basic nutrients are properly covered: protein, carbohydrate, fat. Apart from that, we give proper sources of the vitamins. Vitamins are of two types: fat soluble and the water solubles. Fat solubles are the vitamin A, D, E, K, and the water solubles are the vitamin B complex. And every single of these are very important. For example, vitamin B1 is thiamine, vitamin B2 is riboflavin, vitamin B is B12 is cobalamin. These are the very essential element. If you cannot suffice through the diet in terms of the nutrition, all these parts, yeah, we missed out the minerals also. These are very important as well. There are two types of minerals, that is macro minerals and micro minerals. Minerals mostly, macro minerals mostly cater of this, calcium, phosphorus, and this sodium, potassium, and the microminerals are this iron, cobalt, copper. These are the microminerals. So this is the basic structure of the nutrition. You have to make sure once you're not being able to feed the nutrients properly through your home-based diet, then you have to supplement it in other way. And one more thing, I think we have not covered that part. That is the basic difference between the puppies and the adult nutrition. As the age progresses, the nutritional requirement also gradually that becomes less as for the age progresses. I give you the basic example. An adult, a puppy usually requires a protein around 28 to 32%, whereas in adult that is 80 to 22%. And the fat content is required very less as well, whereas a puppy is requiring around 8.5% of protein. In adult stage or the senior stage, you should not be exceeding 5.5%. And one of the most important part about from the protein, carb, and this fat thing, calcium, phosphorus is a very essential element at this puppy stage to make sure the bones and joints are growing very proper. Every puppy should food should have good amount of calcium and phosphorus. We should be at least 1.2% of this calcium, phosphorus, and calcium should be within 0.5% in the adult foods. These are the few things we have to look after on. As the age progresses, the nutrition requirement also gets low. And at the senior age, you have to look after like what nutrition you're giving. It should never be overdue. If anything is over, they might get the other consequential diseases. Like at the senior age, if you're giving too much of food, if the protein intake is as same as the adult age or the puppy age, they might end up getting the kidney issues. So that is the age frame where you should be in touch with the vet, your regular vet, on a time to time basis. If you get to say minimal changes in your pet's activities, I think this is a time where you should consult your vet to get the updates of them. At the end of the day, as we've been discussing, we all want the pets, we all desperately want every pet to live their lengthier and healthier life possible. To make that possible, it's all our efforts.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ghosh. Uh, uh, Thank you for ending on that note, which is basically our objective is to make sure that we feed the right nutrition so that they live longer, they have a quality life, and
Exactly.
they add to our quality life as well. Uh, Thank you for agreeing to do this session. We tried a new format this time. Instead of having a PPT and presenting our points, we tried
Exactly.
to have this
Mhm.
conversational style of presenting, and I hope
This
uh,
was very spontaneous. This was very spontaneous, or I could, deliberately address the questions as well as we can discuss a lot of things
right.
instead of the prepared ones. We had a really, really good conversation over this. Thank you, Mr. Ravi.
Thank you. Thanks, Dr. Ghosh. And I also would like our audience to do, mention in the chat if they like the way this was presented to them, or if they would like to do it in some other manner. We are open for your feedback. We would love to hear from you. Do drop in your comments. We keep watching them. We keep, love reading them. Um, it's just 2 minutes to 5. I think we have ended the session in time. Thank you everyone online for joining this session live. This will stay on our handle. Do check do share it with your friends. Do share it with those friends who are looking to invite a new pet into their family. Do share it with your friends who already have a pet, and just to emphasize the importance of nutrition. With this, thank you so much. I would like to end the session. Have a great balance of the year. Have a great weekend, and have enjoy your pet parenting journey. Thank you. Good day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so
Thanks, Dr.
much.
Ghosh.
Signing off.
Thanks.